So the problems that we solve for our clients today, they've certainly changed a little bit over time, but foundationally, they started the same. And it was really about the business of what we call the frontline workers. What we found when we started the business way back was that a lot of folks on the front line that were in charge of execution, and that might be execution for a cleaning of a building, it might be execution of merchandising a stack of beer at the liquor store. They were trying to document those types of things with very homegrown process and procedure using tools like Excel or handwritten notes.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Cory Knopp, Vice President of Sales at Form. How you doing today, Cory?
Andrew, doing well. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. Appreciate you spending some time with us on Business Ninjas. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about Form.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So a little bit about me. I grew up in northern Wyoming on a farm. Not a lot going on up there. So fortunately, I had good grades, was a varsity wrestler in high school, and had the opportunity to attend the Naval Academy in Maryland, hence all the good pictures of the ships behind me, and served a career in the Navy before I decided to leave and start my civilian career, and ended up in the sales profession. And you know, when you're getting out of the military, they let's just say, when I was getting out, they didn't do the best job of preparing you for civilian life. So fortunately, I landed in the profession of sales, and I really gravitated to that. And I think one of the things that really helped me bridge that gap as a veteran was that sense of team, and the fact that in sales, no day is the same, right? So that really spoke to my kind of the adventuresome side of me, I would say. And kind of had a winding path here in Colorado before I landed at a company called Go Spot Check. And we'll talk a little bit about how that brought me to Form. But at Go Spot Check, fast growing startup tech company in the Denver area, and just a great group of leaders. The three co-founders, Matt, Sam, and Joey, started on board with them the first 20 employees, and we really carved out a niche in the CPG market, really around beer, wine, and spirits, and providing a mobile technology for those types of organizations. And we grew the business very successfully up until the end of 2020. So everybody remembers what that year was like, right? At the end of 2020, Form.com acquired Go Spot Check, acquired the technology, the team, and through that merger and acquisition process, I stepped into the role of Vice President of Sales for the entire organization and helped combine our sales process. And here we are today. So that's the cliff notes, Andrew.
There, well, I appreciate it. I can't actually imagine a more important sector than beer, wine, and spirits to have an on the floor management and inventory and information system, because there is no other product that seems to find its way out the door for free more than beer, wine, and spirits at a lot of places, right?
Yeah, well, you know, and it was really interesting as we were growing the business, you know, pre-COVID, and working with a lot of beer, wine, and spirits suppliers, you know, the brands that make the product, as well as the wholesalers and the distributors. When we got into COVID, everybody kind of remembers what happened to restaurants at that point, and also what happened to liquor stores and you know, off-premise location where you could purchase the goods. And so our business was really interesting to watch, because anybody that was servicing the restaurants, that business really dried up, but anybody that was servicing the liquor stores, that just totally exploded. And so there was a definite need for what we do for that space.
Excellent. And you gave us a tiny taste of the origin story of Go Spot Check. What's the origin story of Form?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about Form is that they started much earlier. The company as a whole is about 20 years old at this point. And we really took Form and Go Spot Check really had kind of parallel paths. And the macro perspective being digitizing any sort of checklist or spreadsheet or business process or procedure. It just so happened that Form focused on industries like natural resources, healthcare, things of that nature, whereas Go Spot Check always took a retail or CPG type of focus.
Mhm.
And when you put the companies together, it was just a great match for the complementary technology and the industries that we serve.
Excellent. And combined with those two forces, what verticals are you servicing these days?
Yeah, so we're a lot of things to a lot of people, which makes our work fun and challenging. So the verticals that we service the most are within the CPG world. Of course, you got beer, wine, and spirits, non-alcoholic beverages, fast-moving consumer goods, food, and personal care items. So that's kind of within that CPG realm. Retailers themselves will use our application for store operations, types of processes, merchandising, store checks, things of that nature. So we've got retail. We also have facilities management. So think of, business and industry, the third-party vendors that do the janitorial services or the food services at those places. Might think of stadium management.
Mhm.
So we support companies that take care of those things within our facility management practice. We also have restaurants, both fast casual and quick serve, as well as some healthcare business as well. So lots of really interesting things that we're up to.
Excellent. And what are the most common problems you're solving for your clients these days?
Yeah, so the problems that we solve for our clients today, they've certainly changed a little bit over time, but foundationally, they started the same. And it was really about the business of what we call the frontline workers. What we found when we started the business way back was that a lot of folks on the front line that were in charge of execution, and that might be execution for a cleaning of a building, it might be execution of merchandising a stack of beer at the liquor store. They were trying to document those types of things with very homegrown process and procedure using tools like Excel or handwritten notes or emails. And it was just a really unwieldy process. So foundationally, that's what we started out to solve, is streamline that, make the day in the life of the frontline worker a lot easier, a lot more streamlined, and at the same time create visibility for the work that they were doing for leadership and executives in real time. So this whole system is an end-to-end system. Now, how that's evolved over time and what's happened is, of course, the whole concept of doing more with less, right? We've got a really tight labor market. Labor costs are very high. Commodities prices are very high. So everybody's concerned about doing more with less. And what our customers have asked us to do, and this stretches back to maybe 2017 or so, is how can the system do more for us with less button taps, with less cognitive overload, let's say. And so we've been actually playing in the AI space since about 2017. Now, it wasn't generative AI then. It's been computer vision and machine learning, really, that combines to form what we call image recognition. So the concept of letting the photo do the work without Andrew having to document, okay, this is maybe Bud Light or let's say Coors Light or Modelo on the case stack. The picture can actually tell you that.
Excellent. It's really a boots on the ground digital transformation, sounds like.
100%. Yep. Boots on the ground, feet on the street. Yep.
Feet on the street, but it's end to end so that, the distributors see what's going on, and that makes a lot of sense. What differentiates you in the marketplace? What makes you stand out from your competition with this platform?
Yeah. Yeah. We get that question all the time. And so when I think about competition, I really kind of think about it in a couple of buckets. And the biggest one, honestly, is still to this day, years later, the status quo, right? Trying to use a system or a set of systems cobbled together that weren't purpose built to do what they do. And we upended that status quo. So that's one of the things that we stand, which makes us kind of outstanding within the niche that we serve. But I would say even beyond that, one of the biggest risks that an organization, we sell to the enterprise. And so one of the biggest risks an enterprise organization takes is the investment into a software offering, a software platform that's going to be utilized by more than a handful of people, right? And that's, we're an operational software that gets placed in the hands of thousands of frontline field reps. So that's a big risk. And the risk is, will our people adopt it, right?
Mhm.
Because if it's not adopted, then the business has just spent a lot of money on something that the front end user does not like to use, won't use, and then you've got just a useless software. So that kind of all goes back to the question of what really makes us different. I'd say that is probably the foundational thing that makes us really different. It's a beautifully designed, easy to use piece of software that the front line adopts at a very high rate. In fact, we keep track of adoption with our customer success team, and we're always shooting for 95% or greater adoption across all deployed users. So they have to use it, but in order to use it, it's got to be easy to use.
Makes sense. Let me circle back to COVID a little bit. It sounds like you were uniquely sheltered from the storm, as it were, that the overall consumption of these products, even though they weren't being delivered to people in the normal ways, went up as opposed to down, or at least stayed static. Tell me about how you were able to sustain and grow the business through COVID.
Yeah, great question. That was a really interesting journey for us as a fast growing startup, right? It was the first time that we thought about, oh gosh, we're going to have to go remote. Have we done this before? And we're a tech company, so fortunately we had all the tools in place to do it, to go remote. And so I think about COVID in a couple of veins, right? Culturally, what that did to us as an organization. And I look back on those times and say, wow, it would be extremely hard to build something from scratch today if you were fully remote. So I was thankful for the time that we had in the office with peers and colleagues. As it relates to our customer base, in some respects, you're right. We were a little bit sheltered from the devastation. But my example earlier in terms of off-premise or on-premise bars, restaurants versus liquor stores, one was down completely and the other one was skyrocketing. When you look across other segments of our business, you think about different food brands and snack brands that we were servicing. Unfortunately, we saw a number of those brands that laid off their entire field sales teams. And so that was, we always felt terrible for those individuals and for those brands, because we build relationships with those folks. So we did see a bit of contraction in that part of the business. But again, on the flip side, in our healthcare business, in the janitorial element of the companies that we service, the usage of the platform shot up, because when you think about the deep cleaning inspections that were happening during that period of time, even at retail, the retailers that were considered essential, holy cow, were they using the platform a lot to make sure that those process and procedures were documented, they were executed, and there's a digital audit trail that proved that they were done.
Earlier you said that the Naval Academy did not prepare you for the real world. I'm going to say, A, you understand teamwork at a high level, and B, you understand processes and how to get jobs done. So I think, A, thank you for your service, but B, I think maybe they might have honed your blade a little sharper than you might have thought at the time.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And that is the one thing well, there are many things, but one of the things I often think about and I draw on from my time either at the Naval Academy or, out in the fleet as a surface warfare officer is that, that element of teamwork, leadership, the leadership lessons that I learned from leaders and mentors that I was fortunate enough to have. I still draw on those today. So it was, wouldn't trade it for the world. Transition is a little bit shaky for some of the veterans, but we trade that experience for the world.
Gotcha. All right, let's shift gears a little. It's 2023 and Form has to tell its story across channels to drive interest and find new clients. What role has content played in the growth of Form?
Yeah. Content, again, when I look back across the evolution of our businesses, content has continued to play a bigger and bigger part of getting our message out. When I first started on the Go Spot Check side of the business years ago, almost 9 years ago now, email inboxes of the people that we wanted to speak with were so much less crowded than they are today.
Sure.
It's just insane trying to cut through the noise inside of email. So we've had to reinvent ourselves a few times in terms of getting the right attention, and content has been a key way to do that. When I think about our marketing team, I really believe we've got a world-class marketing team. I've learned a ton from our social media leader, our content, our copywriter, our head of marketing, our CMO. I've learned a lot from them about quality content and how to get that out in a lot of different channels. So we've explored all kinds of mediums for that, whether that's events, whether that's blogs, LinkedIn, podcasts like this. It's been such a key part to differentiate the message and make sure that it reaches as many ears and eyes as possible.
Absolutely. Hey, in a perfect world, there's a strong symbiotic relationship between marketing and sales, right? Each of them knows what the other actually needs and has a common goal, and your content has to meet people where they are. So, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, look down the road a year. What are some things you'd like to be celebrating personally and professionally?
Yeah. We're always looking ahead to the good stuff in the future. And I think that one of the things that we're super excited about is some of the developments we have on our roadmap related to image recognition, related to AI. I know AI is the hype. I like to tell people that we were doing it before it was cool. And that's one of the things that we're super excited about, is that offering for our retailer and food customer brands. We're putting a lot of work and a lot of R&D investment into those products, and we're seeing some pretty exciting returns on that. So a year from now, I'd be totally thrilled if we had a lot of great results from the implementation of that technology into many of our existing customers today. So that's we're anxious about that.
Excellent. Please tell our listeners, what is your URL? Where can they find Form, and what social media outlets you're using these days as well?
Yeah. So our URL is very simple. It's FORM.com. You can find us there. We've got two different products that you'll be able to look through when you get to that URL. You've heard me talk about Go Spot Check. That URL will redirect you to Form, but when you think about Go Spot Check, it's just simple. It's GOSPOT check, gospotcheck.com. So you can find us on either URL. In terms of social media, we are very active on LinkedIn. You can find us on LinkedIn. Again, we've got a Form page and a Go Spot Check page that links to it. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me talking about our products and our team pretty much every day there. And those are primarily the channels that we use to help get our message out there.
Excellent. I don't normally throw the word coup around lightly to a military man, but I'm going to say that landing the URL form.com was quite a coup.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting certain times of the year we get some interesting inbounds, I'll say that.
Cory Knopp of form.com and Go Spot Check, thank you for spending some time with us today on Business Ninjas. All the best to you and yours, and to form.com in the future.
Andrew, thanks so much for having me. Have a great one.
My pleasure. Be well.